was in London for about 5 years before I had real English friends, because there's so many foreigners, so many Austrians, so many Hungarians, so many French. I was brought up speaking French, so it was very easy for me in a way. And my mother had lots of friends, and they had children my sort of age, you see. So that was very nice. It was very, very sort of convenient and easy for me. And the English, they may take a long time to make you their friend because they're careful, being an island people. However, when they're your friend, they're really your friend. I mean, I must say, I loved living in London as a student, as an interior designer. I can't say I really live London now, because I live in a bit of a goldfish bowl, less than others in the family. But I think that my son living in Los Angeles, or choosing to move there because of his wife's got a wonderful job when they married, I can understand why they like it so much, because they're totally private people. I'm not a private person. I can't walk down the high street and love to buy an ice cream cone. You know, I can't do that. But then again, you know, I think in life there's some positive things and there's some less positive things. I get to go to Wimbledon, and I'm passionate about Wimbledon. I can only get to go 3 days in the Royal Box, but it's terrific. You know, in England I learned pretty quickly to be quiet. You know, we're very volatile, I think, wouldn't you say? As Hungarians, we're bubbly, we're effusive, we love passionately, we hate passionately, whether it's a dress or a book or a building, you know. You learn to control all that from the way everybody else behaves, I think. That's important. When my son was coming to work in, well, first of all, he was at school in England and university in England, and when he was a little boy at school, he was at prep school. He was terribly excited when he won something, and he was very gifted. He won all the sports, and he was always first in class. I mean, he just was very bright. And he'd say, "Mama, I won the tennis today," or "I won the declamation, you know, today." Or I said, "Now listen, Freddie, you go and you tell that other boy you don't know how you won, because you were sure he was better than you were, and that he should have won." "But Mama, I was much better, you know. I mean, I really was better. I checkmated him in the chess competition, you know." I said, "Freddie, that's the way you keep friends. Not as the way you make friends, the way you keep friends." So you learn this diffidence, if you like. There's this, to be diffident, always to say, "I was very lucky if I got the job, I was very lucky if I won," or, you know. And I said, "Now, Freddie, you're going to live in Los Angeles. All this, forget all this. If you play yourself down, they'll believe you. You've got to say you're the greatest and the best, you know, because it's very much an English characteristic, and a rather charming one, I think, to be diffident about your achievements. And they never tell you that they're the best at something. And then you find out, "Oh my God, I wish I'd known," you know? And I think that's something that foreigners should learn and have to learn if they want to get on in England. Everything's changed, you know. I mean, there was a law passed recently that members of the royal family may marry Roman Catholics. That's quite a recent thing. James II of England was removed from the throne, and he moved to Rome. And there were lots and lots of Stuarts merrily growing in Rome. And when they got rid of Charles II, the English thought, well, who can we have next as king? Well, he had 2 Protestant daughters. One was Mary, married to William of Orange, so they got in William and Mary in 1688. And that was called the Glorious Revolution, because it wasn't really a revolution, it was very quietly, neatly done. And after her children died. People children died in those days, and so after her, her sister Anne. So then we had Queen Anne. Now Queen Anne's children died as well. So who do we get after Queen Anne? Because they're very close Stuart cousins over there in Rome, and they're Catholic. So they passed this law before Queen Anne died, saying that no Roman Catholic may inherit, because otherwise the Stuarts had a claim to the English throne. So what did they do? They had to go back a long way to find a male, of course, in those days, as you know. They had to go Queen Anne, William and Mary, James II, Charles II, then we had Cromwell, then Charles I. He had a sister, subject of my next book, Elizabeth Stuart, who married Frederick V, Elector of the Palatine, Protestant. They were made King and Queen of Bohemia, capital Prague. All right? They were crowned in Prague's cathedral in 1619. She gave birth to Rupert of the Rhine there, so they had their own prince. And Bohemia, which had been a separate kingdom and asked to join the Holy Roman Empire long before, for protection against the Turks, because it was always the Ottoman that was the great danger to the Catholic Europe. And they did that. And then during the Reformation, they had a preacher called Jan Hus. He converted the nobility to be Protestant. They were called Hussites. And not everybody, but the nobility. 2 Holy Roman emperors didn't mind at all. Then came a 3rd Holy Roman emperor, Ferdinand of Styria, and he sent his ambassadors to Prague and said to the nobility, "My emperor says you've got to become Catholic again." And they said, "Harumph," and threw the ambassadors out of the window. Do you know Prague? The castle is very high up. Whee! That was called the first defenestration of Prague. Down they fell. And they were very fortunate, because people had been emptying things out of the window for a long time, so they fell into quite a pile of, it's quite a little mountain below, of rubbish. So they went back to their emperor and told him they were alive, but they didn't smell too good, I shouldn't think. And he was rather cross. Meanwhile, they called Frederick and Elizabeth from the Palatine, capital Heidelberg, and made them king and queen. And the emperor wasn't terribly pleased about that, and he said, "Harumph, they will last one winter before my armies smash theirs." So the armies of the Catholic League fought the armies of the Protestant Union of Princes at the Battle of the White Mountain in 1620, and the Protestants lost badly and fled to The Hague, because Frederick's mother was of the family of Orange, as they were called, the Nassau family, and that started the 30 Years' War. And that was the first great religious war in Europe, really. Well, there are many religions now, as you know, in England, and I think that it's rather remarkable that they're all considered British. They are British. And the law has changed only in the last year that members of the royal family may marry Catholics. Not the heir to the throne, because he's going to be head of the Church of England. So it would be a little bit silly, wouldn't it? Well, everyone was always very nice to me. My sister-in-law, my husband's elder brother's wife, she became Catholic. One of her children's become Catholic. I think, it's Christians, it's Christianity. I think it's much easier now than it was. I have a very great friend who lives here now, and since a long time, and her mother came from Belgium, and when I came to England, I remember her telling me, of course from Belgium, being Catholic, and she married a very important family, English family, who did not approve of this at all, and she said, "You'll find it very difficult." and of course she married a lot before I did. I didn't notice, to be honest with you. I didn't notice. Yes, I mean, certain establishment figures, as you know, in Parliament, that certain people who were Catholics, weren't able to become members of Parliament, and then later on they weren't able to have higher positions. But all that's changed, you know. That's past history.